I call the honourable member Darian Fenton.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Well, I rise to take a call.
And it's a split call. Sorry,
no, it's not a split.
It's actually a split call. It's not a split call. Thank you. The honourable member Darian Fenton.
I'm pleased to take a call on the Construction Contracts Amendment Bill, and as my colleagues have said, we will be supporting this bill, voting for this bill to go to Select Committee. However, I also agree with my colleagues when they say that this is a weak bill that does very little, but we think that during the Select Committee process there will be an opportunity to canvass a range of issues in the construction industry, because frankly, Mr Speaker, the construction industry is in a bit of a mess. It's in a bit of a mess, and we see that no more clearly than we do in Christchurch at the moment, where the failure of this government over several years to train skilled workers to provide for trades training is coming to a head in Christchurch, where we're going to need something like up to 18,000 workers in the next few years. Now, we're going to be relying on bringing in skilled migrants from overseas, and that has already begun. And I think that under what we'll hear in the Select Committee process, Mr Speaker, is many disputes that come out of the Christchurch construction process. We're already hearing some of the stories where large companies are employing subcontractors, contractors, subcontractors, sub-subcontractors, abuses of migrant workers where they're being put into accommodation where 12 of them are supposed to live in 4 rooms, and no attention to their rights. As far as I can see, Mr Speaker, as far as I can tell, Mobi has not put any extra resources into the enforcement of workers' rights around the construction projects in Canterbury. And it isn't just workers that are employed on employment relationships, it's workers that are employed as contractors. And we all know that there's a huge problem there that needs a lot more work, and Labor is committed to doing a lot more work around the small guy that Toby Henry says he's standing up for, to make sure that they actually have some protection. Because quite frankly, at the moment, Mr Speaker, they have very little. And when a company like Mainzeal fails, it is, as David Clark said, the little guy that ends up at the bottom of the chain getting nothing. And let's remember what it's like to be a subcontractor. You're not an employee. You don't have rights to holidays or sick leave. If a family member's sick, well, you just have to take a day off and go without pay. You don't have the rights that other employees do. So we are talking at the bottom of the construction chain some very vulnerable workers. And I think that those issues need to come to the fore in this Select Committee process as well. The other disgrace going on in the construction industry, Mr Speaker, is health and safety. Now, look, I give credit to the government for their task force on health and safety, but we do know one of the high-risk industries is the construction industry. Now, why is that? It is because of the deregulation that has gone over the last 20 years. And in fact, the task force pinpointed the deregulation of the labour market that happened in the 1990s as the beginning of the problem that we have with health and safety. Construction workers get killed. They get injured. They get killed and injured in numbers that only happens in other high-risk industries like forestry. And the government's saying they've got a code around that and that's going to work. Well, the truth is, you know, we're going to have to do an awful lot more in construction, and it goes to the heart of the little guy, the relationship they have, the pressure on them to earn a living, the pressure on them to work when perhaps they shouldn't, to take risks, and that is the heart of the problem in the construction industry as well as in other industries like forestry. The other thing about contracting, of course, it's full of rorts. It is full of rorts. And so, you know, it's good that this bill is going forward and there will be some mild, very mild amendments to provide for dispute resolution. But As we've seen with Mainzeal, there needs to be a lot more done as well. It's not only just what happens to the subcontractors and their rights, it's also what happens in health and safety, but it's also how they are protected. And it's the subcontractors and the ones at the lowest level that are hit the hardest when a construction company fails. They're always last in the creditor queue, and they often miss out money they're owed. Now, if you take that in conjunction with the fact that they don't get holiday pay and they don't get sick leave and they have no savings mostly because they're working from job to job, often jobs that go for a couple of weeks or might go for a month, and then their company goes bust and they end up with nothing. Now, Chris Finlayson wouldn't know anything about that because he's never been near a construction site. He wouldn't have, I beg your pardon? Oh, you were a Minister of Labour for about 2 weeks, and what did that mean? What did that minister do? Defend health and safety in the forestry industry and a code of practice, which is hopeless, absolutely hopeless. But as I was saying, Mr. Speaker, the subcontractors are almost always last in the creditor queue. They miss out on money, and when you put that together with the fact that they have so few rights, they're trying to run their business, they don't even get a holiday. They don't even get a holiday pay or sick pay or any of the other things that employees get. It isn't fair. It isn't fair, and that's why Labor's been doing something about it by talking to the industry to look at some sensible, cost-effective options that offer a fair deal without loading cost onto the sector. And as we heard, I know people were dismissive of the fact that the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove has been going around the country, but may I tell a house that he has had an excellent reception, as have all of us in Labour who've reached out to contractors, who've actually met with them and spoken with them, had meetings, had breakfast meetings, talked about the issues. There's been a very good reception, and it's been interesting because they've said to us, Mr. Speaker, well, at least someone's listening. At least someone's listening, because that government is not listening to the issues that are going on in the construction industry and the issues that are going on for contractors. And so we've done a whole lot of visits around that, and we've looked at some proposals. One is contractors' liens, and the other one is statutory construction trusts, and we're taking those options to the industry for assessment and comment. So we are being constructive about this, Mr. Speaker, and we're being constructive in that we're supporting this bill to go to Select Committee, but there are many issues that need to be canvassed. Apart from the very narrow purpose of this bill, there are very many issues that need to be canvassed, and one of the other ones that I think that may come through, and I've talked about the immigration issues in Christchurch, but I think there will be other immigration issues that come through as well. And once again, I was pleased last week that Simon Bridges took the credit for the fact that we are seeing more migrant workers' abuses dealt with, but I've had construction workers come and see me, and they've talked to me about the fact that they have been lured to New Zealand and they're stuck on a work permit that's tied to the job, and they're being exploited. They're not even getting their entitlement. So I think those issues will come through too. I think the issues, the bill, yes, let's hear about the issues in the bill, but let's also talk about what's really going on in the construction industry. Let's talk about what it's really like for contractors and some more protections from them. Let's talk about health and safety. Let's do something real for a change.
I call the honourable member